Hello, welcome back. So I have hyperflexive Ehlers Danlos, and here is 8 ways hEDS impacts gaming, 5 ways it makes it more difficult, and 3 silver linings. Difficulty number 1. So it gets harder to play games well. Well, you might be saying that's true as you get older anyway. Well, yeah, as you get older anyway, it's true. It gets harder to play precision games and most games well anyway. Reaction times slow, perceptions, fade in and out, etc., etc. You get a little limits to your reactions, normal limits of aging. I'm in my mid-30s. There's other limits as well, though, like my hands slow down and stiffen up. My joints don't necessarily work all the ways that they should all the time. I sometimes need surgeries, or I'm going to need more surgeries, to repair damages to joints caused by hEDS, things like that. Consequences that amplify these difficulties. And I'm not at the point where some of these slowing things should be that detrimental, and they're not really, as far as aging. However, some things like the hyperflexation difficulties and the consequences of hEDS do impact my gaming a bit more and come and go with that, and those difficulties flaring up and getting worse. Difficulty number 2, coming off of the previous topic of gaming getting harder, comes the fact that some days it's just physically painful to game. hEDS comes with things like stiffness in joints, painful stuff. You get bone spurs, bursitis, things like that, because you don't have all of the things you need to have in your joints, because your body's not producing collagen, etc. correctly, doesn't produce it correctly. And you get consequences like pain from a variety of sources, potentially. So it can hurt sometimes to play the games you enjoy, or just to, do normal daily tasks. But that includes things like gaming. So yeah, it can hurt to game. And that's not when it's an enjoyable hobby or something that you use as a tool to de-stress, whether or not it's enjoyable. That's a bummer. Going a third step out, third downside is that on really bad flare-up days, when the pain and the stiffness or joint instability, when things are extra flexive and not really cooperating, not staying where they should, dislocating and stuff, or depending on where you're at in the stages of things. For me, it's pain and stiffness and things like that on really bad flare-up days usually. Near inability to move it, lack of cooperation from joints, things like that on really, really bad days. If you don't have accessibility gear, it's most games are inaccessible without accessibility gear. And so that's a thing. Without accessibility gear, most games can become unplayable on really bad flare-up days. And as things progress, eventually, as things get more difficult with joints or stuff, like as most people get older, gaming gets harder anyway, as we already talked about. And accessibility gear becomes more necessary for individuals with various disabilities, including hEDS. Downside number 4 is accessibility gear itself. That stuff's expensive. I would love to do look at different accessibility gear on this channel, and I'm hoping that I'll get to in the future. Right now, that's not happening. I don't own any. I haven't worked with any right now, save when I was younger, and because I know that joysticks are technically considered, I think, by some accessibility gear. And when I was young, I played some Doom with a joystick. That was the first controller I had for the original Doom when I was little. We're not going to go into that story right now, I guess, but that's a good story for later. And that was back on the original Doom. And yeah, so that was that's essentially an accessibility controller, and that worked for me at the time. And since then, no, not really. I haven't used any accessibility controllers. And because they're expensive, and that's a real downside. Because a lot of accessibility stuff is expensive, and gaming is already expensive as it is. And for controllers that are already expensive at, $70 a pop, to go up to the cost of an entire console for one controller is, or more than, like, to the cost of a whole computer for a controller is, it's difficult, to say the least. Number 5. This one's really personal. Heartbreak. And so what do I mean by that? Is that when I have to say no because I can't. So if you look at the previous 4, those are all times or things that limit my ability. And number 5 is when those previous 4 things have limited me from interacting or being there or doing things with the people that I love or care about or enjoy my time with. For example, when my kiddos want me to play, let's say, Mario Party, the original Mario Party, with them, and I'm having a flare-up day. Mario Party, not necessarily, it's, for those of you who have played it, and for those of you who haven't played it, you need to be able to rapidly use your digits, your fingers, or whatever kind of adaptability controller you're using. And as we just went over, no adaptability controllers here. So that means if I'm struggling to use my hands, not going to be able to play the game very well, or it's going to be painful. And on a bad day, I might not be able to even hold the controller, which means I have to tell my kids, Daddy can't do that today. And then they don't necessarily understand yet because they're relatively young. And I'm like, I can't do that for your 15 minutes of gaming break, your 15 minutes of gaming time right now. Can you pick something else, or can you pick something for your mom to play with, or can your mom play it with you? And sometimes they don't want mommy to play it. Sometimes they want daddy to play it. And then they cry. And then I feel horrible because I can't do it, even though it's not my fault. And so it just sort of breaks my heart when I can't do that. And that's hard. So those are the 5 downsides for me to gaming with hEDS. Now that we've gotten through that, let's look at some of the bright silver linings to this. Because, believe it or not, there is a little bit of silver lining to gaming with hyperflexive Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. So, let's get to the bright side. Alrighty, silver lining number 1. Woohoo! Being able to spend time with people without taxing my body. Long distances, sustained physical effort, including long drives, can be taxing on my body. Driving long distances twice in a day, doubly so. If I drive for more than an hour one way, that means that's more than 2 hours in a day. That means I'm going to hurt a lot the next day and be very stiff, as if I have a lot of arthritis. And some days, life throws lots of driving at you, especially if you want to see friends and hang out, and you got to climb steps, etc. So being able to game online with your friends, even if you're not playing like a multiplayer game, is handy, because then I can play with my friends without me having to drive to them, and without them having to use gas money to come to me. or them having to deal with their aversion to driving to come to me, etc., etc., so that I don't have a flare-up and they don't have to deal with the activity they don't like or the cost that they can't afford. So that works better for both of us in that regard. Not as nice as spending time with my friend, and I would rather spend time with them, so sometimes one of us does do the drive, but we're dealing with the silver lining, which is I don't have to drive and they don't either. Similar to number one is on number two here, silver linings is that my activities and hobbies that I enjoy that are limited these days by hyperflexive Ehlers-Danlos, I can do more digitally. So there's that little asterisk there. So I can do some of them physically, and then if I want to do more without physical cost to my body that day, I can do it digitally. Like if I want to exercise, I can exercise, not as much as I would like. Or I can do some certain renovation stuff or certain craft stuff, very small amounts compared to what I'd like to do. Then I have to stop in the real world. I'm limited by how much time and energy I can spend on stuff because of how much my body can take and how much my body can be trusted. I hate to use that word in regards to my body, but that's the truth of this disability. However, then I can go into gaming and I can do more to some extent of what it is I want to do. Is it the same? No. It's not the same to do it in a game. It does help ease that desire and that pull if I can't do it as much as I want physically to do something similar digitally. And that's really nice. So some of those simulation games, being able to, do remodeling, craft games. I'm not into a lot of them. There are certain ones, like certain renovation games, some building games. I'm a little bit specific because they need to be something similar enough to the hobby I miss doing more of, that I actually enjoy, that I'm very limited on right now without cost. Anywho. And number 3, this one's going to seem probably a little odd to some people, is the days when my body can't do almost anything. I can at least do a little bit of gaming slowly. So there's a little bit of an asterisk here. So I'm autistic as well. I have other stuff more than autism and hEDS. However, for this one, the autism is relatively important because I need multiprocessing for rest, productive rest and recovery mentally. Which means I need to be doing multiple things at once for my brain to fully be stimulated. However, when your body can't really move very well and it just hurts, even on painkillers or muscle relaxers or whatever, if you do take any, and you can't really move your hands and they're in compression devices and you've done your hot, cold, you're doing all the things that you need to do therapy-wise to get your body back to operating, and you're doing everything you can to get back to operating fully as fast as possible, healthy-wise, and in a healthy way, but you're still not able to do things. There's some games I can play slowly, because you don't need to be... Not all games are reaction-based. Not all games are fast-paced. Sometimes they're slow, turn-based, tactical, or they're able to be paused for almost instantly all the time. And that is great. That allows me to have that multiprocessing that I require personally when I'm resting. So I can have a show on one screen, and I can have a game on my other screen, and I can take in the information from both and allow me to multi-process in that way. Or maybe it's two turn-based games or something. It depends on the day and me, how I'm feeling, etc. So yeah, those are the 3 silver linings and the 5 difficulties that I experience, and for me, with hEDS and gaming. So I want to know, those of you who have hEDS, how do these things relate for you? Are these things that you agree with, that you are familiar with? Are your experiences with it in gaming different? Those of you who don't have hEDS, what are your thoughts? I would love any feedback, any thoughts down in the comments. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for watching. Is there anything you'd like to know more about? Any questions? I'd love to hear them. Always open. You're awesome. Don't give up. You make a difference. If you're looking for more content similar to this, and you're on YouTube, stick around to the end of the video. There will be some little clippy things that'll recommend some stuff and a button to subscribe, which helps. And feel free to like if you enjoyed the video, and share it if you think there's someone who would benefit from it, find it interesting, whatnot. I appreciate it. Your support means a lot to me, and by a lot, I mean makes a huge difference. Thank you so much again, and I'm Mike Malcolm. I'll see you next time. Keep being you. You're doing awesome. Hang in there.